All right, we are live. A lot to unpack. Absolute ton to unpack here. Josh, I want to thank you for joining me on a Wednesday night. I know normally we do on the weekend, and we try and avoid, when the Sox are playing. I know how much you have really enjoyed watching the White Sox play recently, so I appreciate you doing this while there's a game going on. It's a lot. It's a lot to take that away from you, but I appreciate you doing it.
I mean, it's the number one comedy right now. With the strike going on, we need something to provide laughter into our lives, Teresi, and that is what Chicago White Sox baseball is for.
I mean, that's all you can do with it right now. Speaking of laughter, let's get into the first topic here, because we got a lot in this episode. There was a whole bunch of stuff, and something I predicted. I was like, Hu Yang's gonna fight. We just saw that he's got the Grievous arms and he can do all this stuff. And like those back two Grievous arms, they are like the equivalent of the thing you use to pick up trash off the street. Like the little claw thing. He's not good at fighting. I don't think I want to see that again.
He needs lightsabers, I think, is what he needs.
I
don't know why he's not packing.
You would think, right? Especially when she's like, hey, be careful out there. You would think he'd be like, oh, well, let me grab 8 lightsabers. But he went out there unarmed, and he's got a whole army ready to kill him. But like one droid tries to take him down very poorly. But he gets he lives. So we might see him fight again. If he fights again, I'm advising the lightsabers.
Yeah, He needs to have the lightsabers because he's no assassin droid, that's for sure.
That was embarrassing. And
should feel bad for himself.
No horny robot doll for you, Hu Yang. You go back and power down for a while. All right. Now, this is something that I want to get into a little bit more, though, because we had talked about Maroc Morocco. I don't know how to say his name. It doesn't really matter now. He's dead. We talked about him a bit, who this could be, what's going on here. And I watched the episode, and Ahsoka slices him in half, basically. We talked about him getting cut in half, so that was very good. And this like smoke came out, and I was like, oh shit, is Thanos here? What's happening? And I like the episode goes on, so I didn't really think about it too much, and I was thinking about it later, and it looked a lot like when Savage Opress gets killed by the Emperor, and that like green smoke comes out of him. They redo this in Rebels a little bit too. But two things here, Josh. Is he just a nobody that the Night Sisters empowered, and now they're like he's a servant to Morgan? Mm-hmm. And then the other thing is, this is another example of Filoni just being like, I'm going to give you some stuff from the Clone Wars, and I'm not going to explain it. And I kind of like it. What do you think about those two items?
I think it could be someone that's been resurrected by the Night Sisters, and this is why you see this type of green mist leave Maroc's body. Now, that fight sequence between he and Ahsoka was fantastic in the way that they shot it, with obviously the Inquisitor lightsaber spinning and Ahsoka just timing her cut perfectly. Reminds me of the scene back in Rebels, spoiler alert, between Obi-Wan Kenobi and Maul, which you would expect this long, drawn-out fight. No, Obi-Wan ends it in, 4 moves? If that? It was a very quick fight.
He takes, 3 different stances, and then finally realizes that Maul is just old and angry, and he's like, okay, I'm just going to be patient and let him come at me, and I'm going to kill him. And that is exactly what happens here. It was a mirror image of that fight. That's a really good call.
Yeah, so that's what this fight reminded me. And maybe Maroc was originally created by Morgan to help protect her, and then she came across Balin. That's one theory that I have. But to your point, he gone.
Yeah.
But that doesn't mean that if Morgan's still around, or there are other Night Sisters that could help with the ritual, That doesn't mean they can't create more Inquisitors. And I wonder, Treasy, do you think that this could be a plot device moving forward instead of like the books from Timothy Zahn where they're cloning Jedi and bringing them back? That instead they can create Inquisitors using Night Sister magic.
Yeah, or I mean, like we saw this in Rebels too, right? We saw Kanan and Ezra get possessed by the Night Sisters, and that could be something. That could be, the next time we see Sabine, is she possessed and working with them? Is Ezra, right? Like, so there's a lot of, when you get into this kind of bit where it's like a lot of magic stuff, and then if Sabine is under the Night Sister magic, who will she attack? Who will she ally with? And it's going to be, especially since Shin seems to hate her guts, but maybe we get a Mara Jade, Luke Skywalker situation there, huh?
I believe someone in the comment section is expecting nudity in Ahsoka moving forward.
It's Disney Plus, so I'm gonna guess no. But the scenario I just gave is about is probably as randy as it's gonna get. But I don't think that's gonna happen. It's just been a big thing on like Reddit and stuff where they're just trying to pick out who Shin's gonna hook up with. So nothing yet. Sorry comments. But so to the other part of this is like Filoni using a lot of stuff from Clone Wars. Like, do you find that as someone who watched Clone Wars, are you in a situation where you're like, I'm getting the residuals of this? But do you think that it's, to some people, it's just like, what the heck is this?
Yeah, I mean, we talked about this at the very beginning about doing your homework. And yes, there are going to be some fan service moments here during the show. That's a big payoff for those that did watch the Clone Wars animated series. And again, this goes back to any type of work. And I brought up the reference previously with Game of Thrones. Those that read the books of Game of Thrones, they had Easter eggs, especially early on in the seasons, that they were excited about to see unfold, while the people that were watching the show that didn't read the books had no idea why they were giddy. And I feel like that's what's happening here in Ahsoka, and it's continuing this argument again about, like, should I have to watch all these shows to be able to watch this show to make sense? And the answer is no, not really. But if you don't want to be excluded from the circle of people who are picking up on all these Easter eggs right away, then yeah, you're going to have to do some damn homework. I don't know what to tell you. That's just how I feel at this moment.
I really like the Game of Thrones thing because for Game of Thrones, I'm a very casual fan, right? Like I've never rewatched an episode, right? I've seen all the stuff, right? But like I've never read a book. In general, I've never read a book in my whole life, but also I never read any of the Game of Thrones books. These books behind me are just props. With Game of Thrones, like I would watch a scene like that and the guy like turns to dust and I'd just be like, yeah, it's another one of those weirdos. That's enough for me. My headcanon, bunch of weirdos. We're just going to move on. So I think you could surely enjoy this show like that. I mean, like he's obviously a bad guy. Apparently bad guys just stink real bad. So green stink flies off of them and you're good. I think that that's reasonable. And I think that the way that they presented it is like, right now it's not key to the plot. And even if it becomes key to the plot, something else will happen that will, kind of cue you in that it's going on. So I did like that. I like that it makes it okay that it's a nobody, right? Yeah. It gives some kind of interesting aspect to him. But also like you see this and you're like, I kind of don't care who it is now. So I think it was a well done thing there.
Yes.
Now, speaking of well done, I really enjoyed this fight with Sabine and Shin. I'm just going to throw it at you. What did you think about this fight?
Better effort this time from Sabine, but yeah, this time she only survived because of her Mandalorian gear. Like, she attempted to use the Force. She doesn't have it. But, psych, boom, mini missile in your face. Nice Mandalorian move there. and that kind of worked. And then Shin watching Ahsoka run away, and then Shin getting distracted and needing to get back to her master after disarming Sabine. Like, I don't know what the third round is going to be, but right now Shin, if we are grading this as boxing, is up 20-16, both 10-8 rounds. Sabine is lucky to be alive, quite frankly. But much better effort this time for Sabine. But it goes back to what Huan Yang said to Sabine and Ahsoka before they left the ship and into the forest: stick together. And Ahsoka does not heed the advice of the droid. Even though Sabine does tell her, I got this, you go. And Ahsoka's trusting Sabine. Dumb idea moving forward. Ahsoka should have no reason to trust Sabine moving forward, even though that's like the whole principle of like the first few episodes of this episode, is that Ahsoka doesn't trust Sabine, and that's what causes friction between the two. But look where it got them. That's all I gotta say.
Yeah, and I mean, I did like the fight because of her leaning into the Mandalorian skills. The Mandalorians are age-old enemies of the Jedi, so like all of their gear is set up to fight against Jedi. So I thought it worked really well in that scene. The Force thing, I was like, oh boy, you're gonna get your head cut off, and I was pleasantly surprised that she was just kind of making doing a little diversion so that she could get her, kind of like Grogu did with the hand the hand missile. But I agree. The problem is they split up, and then when we get to the next fight, which is Ahsoka and Balin, when Shin enters the realm, Ahsoka's immediate reaction is that Sabine is dead. Like, she has no actual faith in Sabine. So I think that kind of comes to fruition in this, and I think Ahsoka's doing just fine when she's on her own, but when she has someone to worry about, it kind of falls apart for her.
Yes, and this is her weakness. Like, every Jedi has some type of weakness. If they didn't, they would have a lot more would have survived Order 66. But yeah, Ahsoka definitely gets distracted here. And that was like Balin's strategy the entire time during the fight. I think Balin, well, what I enjoyed out of this fight, Sharizi, is that Ahsoka clearly more athletic, more agile. And that has been her biggest strength during these types of lightsaber duels and fights. And she has taken on the best of the best and some incredibly difficult scenarios. Again, go back to Clone Wars and see how she survived Order 66. But Balin is using, I wouldn't say psychological warfare, but at least tactics to create doubt in her mind, to create some type of distraction, because I think Balin understands he cannot beat Ahsoka one-on-one. He is stronger as far as brute strength than Ahsoka, but that's not good enough when you're lightsaber dueling a Jedi. You need to use other means to distract, to get them to be unfocused, and then you could take advantage. And Balin did that very well.
Yeah, it reads to me a lot like Dooku in episode 3, I think it is, when he's fighting Anakin and Obi-Wan. And Anakin is at this point much more powerful. He's got it in his, he's kind of eyeing up the situation and like, I might be in trouble here, Yeah. And so he's really focusing on getting Anakin out of his depths. And Balin takes the same tactic here. And to Ahsoka's credit, she does what she needs to do all the way up until not really having faith in that Sabine's alive. Although I did enjoy her just ragdolling Shin when she thought that she had killed Sabine. But then Sabine shows up and, she definitely loses her focus in those moments. I'm interested to see how Balin reacts to what has happened here, because we haven't had a chance for him to really react to what he did. He was not excited about having to fight Ahsoka. Mm-hmm. And now that he's definitely under the impression that he killed her. It's going to be interesting to see how does he react to that. How does he feel about that? Because there is part of him that seems to still be a Jedi. He said something really weird about it's a new start. I don't think he was doing it like the Arrested Development, a new start. I think he was talking. I think he was like possibly talking about restarting the Order, but in a different light, like in his own way. And so that really struck me, and it might lead into kind of what was going on in the next part when he's talking with Sabine, and like he plays Sabine masterfully here, right? Yes. And this is, I mean, like I do like that he just like took it all in for a second and was like, I know everything going on in your head, and I'm going to use this against you. What do you think about this scene? Do you think that it's Sabine just making a insane error in judgment, or do you think that there is some kind of plan here? Because this feels very Rebels-like, where at the end she's gonna be like, "I knew what I was doing the whole time," but it's the stakes are a lot higher in this situation, and so I'm wondering, does she know what she's doing, or is this just I'm really at fault here, and I just need to see my friend?
I mean, that's the level of arrogance from Mandalorians sometimes that they show, right? That I knew what I was doing the entire time. The hell you did. Because you have no idea where you're going, right? You're going to another galaxy, but she just saw Ahsoka get thrown off a cliff. So I'm sure Sabine's thinking, yeah, Ahsoka's dead. So if I'm going to see Ezra, he's my best hope. Because what other option is there? If I don't go along with them, they're going to kill me. If I go along with them as their prisoner, maybe there's a chance that I run to Ezra, and maybe Ezra can help save me. So maybe that's the thinking here in the writer's room as they wrote out this situation. But it does portray Sabine making some really bad decisions here. She should have probably just shot the map. And that was the whole thing that Ahsoka was getting to. It's Sabine, can I count on you? And the answer is no. You cannot count on Sabine. The only thing you can count on with Sabine is that Sabine's going to do what she wants to do. She is very millennial in the show. And she still has decided beyond everything. It does not matter, New Republic, whatever. She's got to find Ezra by any means necessary. And she is playing a very, very dangerous game right now.
Yeah, Joe White Sox here. It says, I think Sabine giving him the map to save Evra is mirror to Anakin giving in to Palpatine to try and save Amidala. Hopefully the results are different this time. I think that's a very good comparison. I think that is a similar, like, this is an act of selfishness, right? And we'll get to that in a little bit because I think there might be another mirror to this in the episode. But before we get to that, Josh, I want to ask you to speculate a little bit. All right, let's get the.
We have an excellent track record, by the way, when we speculate when it comes to Star Wars shows.
Get your thinking cap on. Now we've seen Carson Teva now. He came and helped out with Hera. They need some help. All right, who do we see next? I know we're going to see Thrawn. I wouldn't be wearing the shirt if I wasn't confident we're going to see Thrawn. But who else? There is some opportunity for crossover here. Carson knows some people. Hera knows some people. Who are they going to get to help out?
Well, Zeb's got to make an appearance, right?
I mean, why would they spend the money to create him?
I mean, aren't you bringing everyone back? I would expect at some point you're bringing the entire band back. Man, I'm going to go with the middle guy here. I think we're going to see Din and Grogu.
Okay.
Only because Ahsoka, I think, needs another Jedi. And Jason, not ready yet, but he's already demonstrating more Force abilities than Sabine. So again, back to last week's episode, if you get a chance to watch, I think Jason will eventually find himself at a Jedi school and get his head cut off. Their Ben Solo. But if you're right about the crossover, and I believe this next episode, Dave is directing the episode, so I do think we're finally going to see Thrawn in the next episode. Maybe it does make sense that they do contact Din and bring Grogu, and maybe see the way this episode ends. I've got no idea really, because I don't know what the next step is in episode 5 of this series. So I'll stick with it. It'll be Din and Grogu. I'm not 100% sure why, but to your point, we got to start crossing over more, and this would be the crossover opportunity.
I'm along the same lines as you, but I think I'm gonna go with Bo-Katan, and I'm going with Bo-Katan for a couple of reasons. One, she actually has a connection to Sabine, so she may be more inclined. I know Zeb does too. She may be more inclined to go like, I'm going to help. And now she is the correct wielder of the Darksaber. It could be interesting in that light. And then the other part is like, I think Filoni will be very conscious of like, I've made this show where like all my heroes are women. I'm not going to bring in a dude to like save the day, you know? And so I think that he'll probably go like, Bo-Katan is going to be, if we're bringing in an outside source, like Bo-Katan is probably going to be that person. So I think that I could kind of feel that from the way that Filoni writes a lot of his stuff. So I think that could be the person, and it could just be like Bo-Katan brings everybody. Right, I mean, like it could just be that's who they contact, and then she brings the whole army. But
I think
guess
that's the
my
movie. I think what you're describing is going to be the movie that Dave's
that could be the
have.
movie.
I don't know if that's going to be in this next episode.
So then my next question to you on the speculation side: do they get do they go and follow them, or do they just wait for Thrawn to come back?
See, this is what's crazy to me about on how this episode ends. Like, are we ready to talk about how this episode ends? Because I think this is what everyone's
right
been
into
talking
it.
about. How in the world is Ahsoka in the world between worlds, Treasy? Like, how does this make sense? Is she dead? Is this heaven? Like, what's going on here?
So it's tough to determine, right? Because Filoni's talked about the world between worlds before. The way they talk about it, his way of talking about it is more of like it's like another kind of dimension, realm. It's not a time travel thing. It's more of a place to gain knowledge. It's more of kind of sort of like how in the Mortis arc, they're there, but they're not. They're just like in this other place that exists right in plain sight. And so what I'm seeing here is like, I don't think she died. I think someone pulled her into the world between worlds. And it may, again, link to the Mortis arc of Clone Wars. I don't think they're going to explain it. And that's why I brought up the Savage Opress thing earlier, and how Maroc, I don't know his name, died. Like, it was very tied to something in Clone Wars. They gave no explanation. I don't think you're going to get any solid explanation of what's going on here, other than that she is somehow going to come out on one of these sides alive. And now, the other piece of this, too, is that actually Anakin? Because
Right.
they do at the end when it's fading out and they start playing the music, they play Vader's theme, which seems off to put for Anakin. There's a lot there. I'd like to hear your thoughts on it.
Yeah, and for those that did not watch this episode in Rebels, the only 3 characters we know that have moved the world between worlds is Ezra, Ahsoka, and Emperor Palpatine. Now, again, we've been talking about this ever since we've been recapping Mandalorian. It seems like Jon Favreau and Dave Filoni have this task of making sense of the sequel movies and to try to bridge the gap on how possibly Emperor Palpatine came back. J.J. Abrams did a terrible job with that, but they're going to try to do their best and what theoretically could happen. And Emperor Palpatine was well aware about the world between worlds, and he was quite happy that Ezra found a way to get in and using Sith magic was able to make an impact to the world between worlds. So Emperor Palpatine knows that this definitely exists. A place where time stops and you could jump through time. So using Sith powers, maybe that was Emperor Palpatine's endgame all along, Trevisi, was that his spirit was going to live in the world between worlds until it was time, when he knew it was going to be the right time for the Sith to return and for him to crush everyone. And, yeah, Rey had the power of every Jedi, and then, yeah, that's the Rise of Skywalker. Ta-da! So, but in here, this is why on Twitter, I tweeted at you, we talked about last week when you asked me about the comparison between Gandalf and Ahsoka. And I know I told you last week, I don't see it, it's loose. This connection, quite strong, because it goes back to the Two Towers, where Gandalf beats the Balrog, and then all of a sudden he slips into a space where time does not exist. And then for whatever reason, he is brought back. But when he is brought back, he is much stronger. He's no longer Gandalf the Grey. He becomes Gandalf the White. In the world between worlds, is it possible that Anakin, with the power that he has, is able to pull Ahsoka into this place, have one of the greatest pep talks of all time in Star Wars, and send her through a portal stronger than she came into the world between worlds? Is that possible, Terezi?
I think that's possible because Anakin is also tied to the Mortis gods, right? And so that there may be something.
Yes, the sun,
to that.
right?
Yeah. However, I'm gonna go on a little bit of a different direction, and the comments are talking a little bit about this. We know that Ahsoka is tied to the daughter who became Morai, the whatever kind of bird that is, and we've seen that bird a lot. I haven't gone through this episode in a fine-tooth comb to see if that bird is there, nor have I looked to see if the sun's kind of bat-like creature is anywhere in the episode. So I don't know that that's the case. This feels to me like the sun trying to lure her into something. And I think that's why the Vader music played instead of the Anakin music here. And we're talking some kind of dark side ploy here. Maybe the fact that Ahsoka is tied to the sister, this is the only way he can kill the sister, get out of the world between worlds. I don't really know. It's real weird, and I love it all. But I'm just like, I think that that's kind of where my mind's going, is that because I love Admiral Akbar so much, I always think it's a trap. And so this to me feels like a trap.
What if the world between worlds can help you travel galaxy to galaxy?
Yes,
what if we have a role reversal here, where before that Star Destroyer slips into hyperspace with the Purrgil, Ahsoka grabs Ezra out of that moment from Rebels, like Ezra did to save Ahsoka against Darth Vader.
And since then, Ezra's always been, and dumbass Sabine just went to go get Thrawn.
She's a Mandalorian. She's a millennial Mandalorian. Let her be. Let her make her own mistakes. Or what if Anakin's like, you have to go back where you came from, and we get another duel between Darth Vader and Ahsoka? Like, I'm just spitballing here. I'm throwing
that would be awesome.
I don't think anything is sticking. But this is the part of the episode where I know a lot of people were excited, and they cannot wait for the next episode, and I can't wait for the next episode as well. But this is where Dave is entering confusion here, because we only learned one way that you could get into the world between worlds, and that was a portal at a Jedi temple that no longer exists. So how did she get here? How is Anakin here? There's so many questions there, and if he does not answer those questions, then I'm just going to be very confused. And I'm wondering if there was more shot, and in the editing room it got cut. Like, that would be my concern.
She has to experience some kind of temptation here, right? Similar to the way that Ezra did. So Ezra was able to pull her from danger. He was guided there by Morai. He pulled her from danger, but then he was given the opportunity to try and save Kanan, and she stopped him from that. So the question is, what is going to be her opportunity to stop something? Is the opportunity she's given to somehow save Anakin, and she has to overcome that want to save him, knowing that she should.
Yeah, it goes back to the Ahsoka did not tell Mace Windu, right? About what was it in Clone Wars? She was hiding information from Mace Windu that could have been very, very beneficial.
It was
especially preventing Order 66.
She knew the Darth Sidious name because she had talked to Maul. She didn't tell him about the conversation she had with Maul in the gutter.
That's right.
So that's what she hid from him, if I recall. It's been a while since I watched that 7th season, but I think that's what it was. And it does make you wonder if Mace knew that. Does Mace win that duel and the Empire never exists? Yeah, like, is there a chance for her to kill the Emperor or pull Anakin out of the fight between Mace and the Emperor? Like, is that what's offered to her? And that would have saved everything, and Anakin would still be a Jedi, right? Like, that kind of temptation I could see, like, being a thing where, okay, this is offered to you, are you going to take it? And she's got to be better than Sabine in Sabine's moment of weakness, so that she could truly kind of say, like, I should be the master to this apprentice, and now I got to go save her ass, and let me ride this Purrgil off into the sunset. Yeah, Dave, if you're watching this by any chance, if we're, like, way off, can you just let us know in the comment section? I guess, again, I know we're spitballing here, but this really opens up a lot of opportunities here. And this does have me a little concerned about how they use this technique. Huge risk. Huge risk. Like, if this falls flat, or if people walk away from it having no idea what just happened in a bad way, that could sink this whole series that's been really good so far. I've really enjoyed it. I think we're past the point of, like, we're catching you up on Rebels. It's like, nah, you're neck deep now. You gotta figure out for yourself. We're not telling you why this guy turned to green smoke. You're in it. So there is a lot of risk here to say, like, if they mess this up, this show might go the way of Secret Invasion. But if they get it right, it opens up a lot for the entire galaxy. And I think that's multiple galaxies now. Dave Filoni is directing this episode, right? You would think, right? He feels like we got to. Yeah, we have to nail this. We cannot screw this up. I'm in charge here. I wrote this episode. I'm directing this episode as the showrunner. We cannot screw this episode up. This will probably be the most important episode, not only for Ahsoka, but for this whole extended multiverse that they're building up to for Dave Filoni's movie. There's a lot riding on this episode now, thinking about it, because if this bombs, I could see Disney being like, oh no, we ran out of money. I'm sorry, Dave, you don't get your movie now. Yeah, it's the strike. It's the actor's fault. Yeah, the strike. Yeah. So yeah, I'm curious on how it's going to be. Now I can't wait. Like, I know we're 6 days away, but, like, now I can't wait. I think it's also going to be the longest episode of the series. Yeah. And I can't wait to come back to this episode. Let's call it 3-4 months from now and just look at all the stuff we got wrong, but also just go, Oh man, I forgot about Secret Invasion. Now you're reminding me. All right.
God.
Well, I think we've got a huge
It was going
episode coming
well.
up.
It was going so well into the end.
Right. I mean, like that's where we're at with this series, right? It's going really great. I'm gonna watch. I'm definitely gonna make sure that on Tuesday I'm there at like 8 p.m. sharp, so that like I'm in a situation where I'm like, I don't need to hear the internet's thoughts on this before I get to it.
Did you see this?
Oh wow!
Comment
I
from,
just saw
Jeff
this. They're showing this in a handful of theaters, including one near Skokie. I'll have to check that out. I'll have to see. I have to see if there's one near.
I mean, you don't make that investment without. Yeah, that's got to be huge.
It's again. I mean, it's. I'm hoping it's awesome. A lot riding on it. A lot of risk here.
A lot riding on it.
Don't make Chris Getz your GM in this episode. All right, let's get our shit together, Dave. You got to make this right. So yeah, I mean, like I am excited for it. I know we'll all be checking it out, and we'll see what day next week we're gonna do this, because next weekend's Riot Fest, so we'll see when we're gonna fit this in. But we're definitely gonna break the next episode down. So Josh, thanks as always for joining. A lot of fun. A lot of interesting ideas here. Probably all wrong. Probably all wrong. But we shall see. Thanks everyone for tuning in. We'll talk to you soon.
Later.